Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to the next video in the Blender tutorial series. Alrighty, so I've been MIA for the past few days. It's been under the weather. There's like some kind of flu or virus going around. Ugh, I don't wish that on anybody. But anyhow, I am feeling a little bit better today, so we're gonna give this a shot as far as continuing with this series. So I do apologize for those of you who have been, faithfully watching the videos and waiting for the next tutorial. But here we are today. So I've been putting some thought into what I want to do next with this series. There are some things I still want to go over, but the way I look at it now is I started modeling knowing much less than what I taught you already. So I believe as far as the basics go, you have a pretty good foundation to make simple models or even just beyond simple. So you should be capable of building right now. All right. And at some point, we'll double back and maybe we'll go over some more advanced techniques and functions and stuff like that. But for now, I want to start heading into like doing textures, stuff like that, making materials and getting these objects into Giants editor, right? Because that's our whole goal here. That's what we're looking to do. All right, so today we're going to do something really simple. We're going to make a garage. All right, nothing fancy, just a deco object that you can put on your map. All righty, so let's hop right into it. Let's get started. So I'm going to go number one on my keypad, get myself into front orthographic mode, and I'm going to move this up a little bit. And I'm going to be scaling it, so it doesn't really matter if I move it right now. All right, I'm going to press N on my keyboard so I can bring up the side panel here and see my dimensions. And I'm going to rough this out and give it the rough shape of a garage. So I'm going to scale on the x-axis. And we'll bring that out to about, let's say 14. Make that 14. And then I want to scale on the y-axis as well. Okay. Bring that out to about 18. And then again on the z-axis, I want to bring that up to about 10 feet. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the top of the cube. I'm guessing is going to be my ceiling. So it'll be like a 10-foot ceiling. And in this way, that gives me plenty of room for a garage door and all the other things that I want to do there. Now, since I scaled this in object mode, you can see that my scale here is all goofed up. I'm going to hit Control A and I'm going to apply my scale. So I'm back down to 1, 1, and 1. Alrighty, now into transform mode, or into edit mode, I'm sorry. Actually, let me go back over to object mode. I'm going to move this back up a little bit so I can see what's going on. There we go. I don't know why it bugs me so much having that partially buried under the ground, but it does. All right, so here you have some options. Now, you've probably figured out by now, if you haven't heard me say it before, that there's a lot more than one way to accomplish the same thing inside of Blender, right? So there's all sorts of different ways you can get started here. But ultimately, somewhere in your mind's eye, you need a mental picture of what you want this garage to look like, right? So you need this big, big front door on here that the vehicles can go in and out, maybe a man door for people to go in and out, and a window or two, and a roof, okay? So we need to start marking up those objects somehow, like laying it out. This is our rough layout of where we want these objects to be. Now, there's certain things you're going to want to get done, and the order that you do them in sort of matters. Like, for example, if I start putting down loop cuts to mark out some of these areas, I won't be able to subdivide some areas, or at least visually, I won't be able to see the subdivision. And then if you want to like raise the roof, it gets not messy, but I'll explain as we go here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a loop cut right down the middle of this thing, like so, smack dab right straight down the middle. Alrighty. And I really probably didn't even need to do that. Let's try and back this up a little bit. I can do this. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways. I can select the top of this, subdivide. All right. Go into edge select. And what I want to do is I want to get rid of these two edges here. I'm hitting all the wrong keys because I can't see them. My microphone's in the way. Okay. So now with that there, you see how I have this cut across the top. You'll see I won't be able to use a loop cut on the front anymore. Now I can still do the top and the sides, but I can't do the front because it's broken up by that edge right here, right? It's not one continuous edge. If I was to put an edge down the middle again, then I could do it. All right. So if I control Z, oh no, I subdivided. That's right. Let me go back and get rid of those two again. Yeah, like I said, there's just so many different ways that you can do things here. Now, I don't necessarily need this one in the middle, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knife. I've been using my knife a lot for a lot of things. I don't know. It's something I just choose to do, I guess, lately. It makes it a little bit cleaner because you'll notice when you do a lot of loop cuts and you start putting loop cuts, it gets really messy really fast. All right, so front orthographic mode. What I did is I selected that line right on the top of this cube, and I'm going to press G and Z because I want to lift that up. All right, not too high, like maybe like right there. Right, so give that a nice peaked roof. All right, now pressing number 1 to get myself in vertex select. I'm going to select these two front ones here. Okay, and I'm going to press J to join those. So I needed some separation. You'll see in a little while why that is important. Okay. So now I still may be able to do a loop cut on the front of this. I can do it on this side or this side. All right. And let's get that done really quick because I want to mark out this door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out roughly where I want this. And I'm going to go down to the settings here and I'm going to take note of how far I moved that. So let's say, let's round it down to 0.6. Yeah, that's good. All right. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. And this way I know what the value is. So I'll make that negative 0.6. And this way I know that they're evenly spaced. Right. So now I no longer need this center edge here. So I can delete that. All right. So this is kind of high for the garage door. So I'm going to use my knife again. And I'm going to figure out roughly where I want the top of that door. Left click, press X. Yeah, there we go. Press X. Get me on the X axis, shoot across, enter, and there you go. So there's roughly where my door is going to be. Alrighty. So now I'm going to put a man door on this side, and I am also going to maybe put a window, possibly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run one more line across here. Again, like I said, I've been using my knife a lot instead of doing loop cuts. I don't know, it's cleaner, seems to work better for me. All right, so that's going to be the top of my door and possibly a window if I choose to put one in there. All right, so we'll see here. Let's start roughing in that side door there. So again, with the knife, click it, press Z. Okay, like so. Let me go up here and make sure. No, I don't have anything in there. Okay, and then I'm just going to figure out how wide I want that door to be. Click, left click, press Z, run it down to the bottom, enter. All right, so there's my door and my front door. We will put a window, or I'm going to put a window on here, but I'll decide in a little bit where I want that window to go. For now, let's get over to this front door. What I'm going to do, not sure if I want to put trim around this door or not. The garage door, I'm not, but I think the man door, I will. So right now I'm going to look at it for an angle, so I can tell how far I'm pushing this face in. So I'm just going to E. All right. So I want to explain something to you here really quick. So here you can see I extruded and it left this piece down bottom, right? I don't necessarily want that. So if you go up to extrude here, extrude region on the toolbar, and you hold that in and go down to extrude manifold. All right. So now you should kind of remember what a manifold is. All right. So now if you extrude this, okay, you can see, oops, let me push shift and let that go a little slower. All right. You can see that it didn't leave that piece just hanging out on the bottom. It moved that in all as one piece. Right. So it didn't leave any non-manifold edges there because that's what happened there. Remember what a manifold is. It's connected on each side and that one was not. Right. So now we're good. All right. So there's our door itself. The garage door looks okay. Now let's pick this next door here. All right. I'm going to start fleshing this out a little bit. This one, I'm going to put some trim on it and I'll show you what I'm going to do there. I'm going to I to inset. Okay, that looks about right. Now I don't need this little step thingy down here on the bottom. So again, with the knife tool, I'm just gonna, it snaps on the corner. If you just hover over that corner, you'll see that it snapped. And I'm just pressing Z to get myself in a straight line, right? So hover over it, press Z, down we go, enter to lock it in. Now I can go into face select here, or edge select, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to dissolve those bottom edges. Okay, so now I got a door. Now I'm going to go into face select, and I'm going to select this trim around the outside. E for extrude. And I'm going to pull it out too far, just enough. Now, the one thing with doors and windows to keep in mind, really all this detail is kind of unnecessary. Like the trim isn't so bad, but I have a habit of putting more detail into my doors and windows than what's really necessary. All right. You'll find quickly enough when you inspect these things in Giants Editor that you can just as easily get away with a good texture, right? So if you have a good window or door texture with a normal map, maybe a height map, specular map, all those things, it will look absolutely just fine. Even with putting the detail in here, I've noticed that, looking at it straight on, you can't even tell, right? The texture would do just fine, and it would save on the topology as far as your face count and stuff, making sure, you don't, it's not too big. Your model, like I said, the number of faces is kept to a kind of a minimum. All right. So I'm going to select this again, right click, S for subdivide. And I'm going to get rid of this middle line here, the middle edge, because I don't need that. All right. And I am going to pick back into face select. Let's see here. Actually, I'm going to push both of these in a little bit, just a little bit, like so. Like that. Then I'm going to pick just the top. I for inset. I'm not sure how far I want to bring this in. Trying to think exactly what I want to do with this. Actually, I'm going to subdivide that one more time. I again to get myself into individual. Okay, we'll do that. All right. And now once I have that, I'm going to extrude those in just a little bit. I like to get close enough on enough of an angle so I can see how far I'm pushing things in. Okay, so that's a very basic door, right? And this is what I mean about the detail that I put in here. A lot of this it's unnecessary. It's just, extra triangles that we just really don't need, right? So if I put on the stats, my count is low, but you'll see, once you get a couple of these under your belt, and you start looking at them, you're going to be like, why did I even put all that work into that when a texture would cover that so easily? All right, but I do it anyhow. All right, so one of the things to keep in mind is we're going to be applying textures to these things. Okay, so anything that you want to have a separate or different texture, you're going to need to separate that area with either like an edge or a face, right? So you're going to need to tell it what areas you want to be textured. Now, sometimes as I go along, I'll clean up some of these stray lines because you're not going to need them. Like these here, they're just extra edges. So I'll get rid of those just because, eventually I'm going to clean them up anyhow. I will get into some sort of I didn't do I didn't use extrude manifold when I pulled that in. See, I have two. That's going to delete the whole bottom, which is fine because I'm going to do that anyhow when I'm done. So I'll just leave that. So if you have that little lip there, right, don't worry about it because when we're done, we'll be deleting the bottom of this and that's going to go away. So that's no biggie. All righty. I forgot what I was saying there. Cannot remember. All right. So this is already looking like what you would want a garage somewhat to look like. All right. So we'll put maybe a window. All right. I'm going to do two windows here. I'm going to put one on this side and I'm going to show you something as far as this is concerned. All right. Now what you could do now is you could either figure out the height of your window and run another edge, right? And we can use that to put our window in. When it comes to the knife tool, you don't have to have that bottom edge, right? So you can press Z to go down on the Z axis, get it about as high as you want it, like so, and then just go right into X or Y. Actually, that would be the Y axis. All right, bring it over for as wide as you want it, and then go back up to Z, like so. Enter to lock it in. All right, so that's just going to be a small window, just a garage. All right, so we'll pick that. I to inset. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move this in a little bit, like so, with using E for extrude. Okay, and we're going to pick the trim work that goes along the outside of that. And we're going to move that out just a hair. Nothing too crazy, nothing too far. There we go. All right, now back to the window. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this window look like a normal window that opens on the top and the bottom, and I'll show you what I mean. And I can also show you what I mean about putting too much detail into something. All right, so we'll get rid of these lines here. All right, and I'm going to select these two faces again, and I am going to use inset one more time. How did I want to do this? Okay, I'm going to go back into the knife tool and I'm going to get rid of this corner here. And like I said, if you hover over that corner, it'll snap right to it. So you don't really have to worry about trying to line it up. It should snap. And you can just press Z and make that short little line there. Okay, kind of like I did on the door. Did I do that on the door? Yeah, I had to have. All right. And then again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of these lines here because I do not need them. All right, now I am going to select all the faces on the bottom here, like so. And I am going to extrude those in about yay far. And I'm going to select both window panes and I'm going to extrude those in a tiny bit, like so. All right, so now that kind of looks like a window, that will open top and bottom, right? So you can slide it up, you can slide it down. But again, this is detail that to me is it's unnecessary. I still do it, but it is, in my opinion, unnecessary. Because when you look at this window straight on, especially in game, you cannot tell that detail's there. It just looks like a graphic. All right. One of the good things about this, though, is if you want this to be different colors or different textures, you're defining that area, right, that you want to be a different color or different texture. And that's what I mean by you have to watch your geometry and you have to define those areas where you want there to be, different textures. All right. So there's your window. Now, the thing about this is if I want to put one of these windows, like say right on the other side, all right, I could either do the same thing and recreate that window. But unless you're exact, you're going to have two windows that are two different sizes, basically. So if you're that good, and you have everything measured out, you can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into wireframe mode 3 for face select. And I am just going to select this window here, like so. Okay. Now I'm going to be back into wireframe and deselect that. So I got that window selected. Now I'm just going to copy it over to the other side. But the thing is, this is inset, right? So you can see on the other side how it sticks out. All right. So that's going to cause a little bit of a problem on the other side. And I'll show you what I mean in just 1 minute. So let's just put this on the other side. I'm going to shift D. All right. And press X to move that along the X axis. Okay. So it's out the other side. And I'm just going to rotate RZ 180. All right. And now I'm just going to bring that back into that wall there. Okay. So let's bring this G to grab it, X to move it. Okay. I want to get a little bit closer so I can see how far that needs to come out. All right, so that should be good. All right, so now you can see what's going on there. I can't see any of the detail at all because this face is covering it, right? I mean, it's still extruded into the background there, but not really doing me any good. So what I'm going to try and do here is, and I do this from the inside because it's much easier to do it from the inside. Let's see. Is I'm going to use my knife tool and I'm going to try and line this up that I can get right along that trim. See how good I am at lining this up. It's pretty close. Now, the nice thing about the knife tool is you can move if you need to. See, there we go. So you can press select and move your view. You can't do that in every single tool. All right, so I'm going to try and bring that up to the top. And I'm going to run this, like I said, down through. It's getting kind of close. So let's bring that over just a hair. And I'm pretty close the other way. That's all right, though. So let's bring this down bottom. Enter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing on the top and the bottom of that window, like so. Run that along the y-axis. And then again on the bottom. K, run that on the bottom. Oops, Z, I mean Y. Jesus, I can't get my letters. I'm getting my letters all mixed up. There we go. All right, so now what I can do, as long as I'm in face select, is I'm going to try and select that face that was covering the window. And I'm going to delete letter F for faces. And there you go. Now you can see all the detail is back in my window because I cut out an area for that window to sit. All right. Now, in one of my previous lessons, I mentioned that this is something that you can do using the Boolean modifier. All right. So you would make this window, you would separate this window by selection, make it its own object, and then you could just cut the hole right in the side. You don't have to run, any of these edges or anything like that. You just have a nice hole cut right in the side. No problem. Everything looks really good. All right, so that's about as basic as it gets, right? So I was going to put one in the back, but I think I'm just going to stop right here, only because, like I said, I don't want this video to run too long. What we need to do is we need to get the roof set up here a little bit. Now we have options again as far as the roof goes. Like, how do you want to do the roof? I want some kind of overhang here. Now the front is easy, right? So I can extrude that along, like, say, the y-axis, and I can make that stick out as far as I want, right? So that's not a big deal. That's pretty easy, right? And the same thing goes for the back half. But when you want to do these bottoms, right? So if I want to extrude this out this way on the x-axis, like so, we'll try that. Well, that's not going to work. All right. So how do you get around that? That's kind of an issue right now that we need to try to figure out. And I'm going to show you a little trick to that. All right. So what you want to do is this line here that I have highlighted, that's kind of the angle that I want this to follow when I extrude. All right. So I'm going to highlight this angle and I'm going to go up here to where it says global and I'm going to click that plus sign, right? And it's going to add that edge into my orientations up here. Okay. And now I'm just going to reselect this edge. All right. Now I'm going to E and Y. And then I'm just going to pull that down as far as I want it, like so. Let's just make that -1. All right. And that looks pretty good. Now you want to get rid of that edge that's in there just by clicking this X. If not, every time you go to move something different, it's going to screw you up. Right. And so you don't really want to do that. So pick another edge because you want to do this one the same way. So pick the edge that defines that slope, add it under your orientations, grab the edge, E and then Y, and then we'll just round that off to 1. And then there you go. You got those overhangs looking really, really nice. All right. So make sure you get rid of that extra edge there. And then we're going to do the fronts the same way. All right. And then E along the y-axis. I don't know if I want to do a whole 1 or if I want to do, I guess so. That's fine. Sometimes I only go half the distance. Depends what it looks like. All right. And mark that up as 1. Okay. So now there's no depth to this roof, right? So it looks very flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all the faces on the top of this thing. And we're just going to extrude them upwards. We're going to extrude along normals. All right. So it does it all at one time. Keeps it looking really nice. All right. So we want to right click and then you want to pick extrude along normals. It's weird. It goes back and forth between F and A. Sometimes, oh, okay. So here's the problem. You see what's happening here? Let me undo that. Did you see how wonky that was when I tried to one's going up, one's going down? My faces aren't right. Okay. So this is where I get into looking at, see that? See how I got some red ones there? All right. And that can be fixed by going up to your overlays and you click on that face orientation. Now I have mine remapped to alternate X. You can right click on that and you can add the shortcut or you can add it to quick favorites or just pick it out of the list. All right. Because you're looking for ones that are red. And now select those. And again, I have this remapped to another key. And you would use alternate N and then F for flip. Okay. And it is up in this top menu also, I think under mesh, and then you go down to normals and then it's under flip. All right. So everything is facing the right way. If you look at the bottom, that's no bueno, because if we looked at this in game, you'd be able to see right through the bottom of this roof. So it wouldn't really look so good. So we need to give some thickness to this roof. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Like I said, we can extrude just like I was going to do. You can separate the roof, make it its own object, and you can put a solidify modifier on it. And you can do it that way. This way I just think is the easiest, right? And that's just to extrude along normals and then just bump that up a little bit like so. And now if I look at the bottom of this, well, actually I have to go through and select them all. Ooh, actually, you know what? I got to fill that in. So I got to fix the corners here. So let me grab all these corners like so, and I'm going to use F for fill. I'll grab this one over here. Grab that one. Like I said, there's tons of different ways to do this. It's kind of going to be up to you how you know, which way you choose. You know, not every way. I mean, maybe there is a perfect way, a best way. You know, one of the things that I've stated many times is just because, you know, I know, you know, how to use the different, I know what all the different functions in Blender are. I know basically how to use them, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at it. Right. So, you know, in many respects, like I said, I'm, you know, just like you guys, you know, learning. Everybody's learning. All right. So I'm going to get back into face select these two, and I'm going to flip those. All right. So now I'm looking good. So now I could put a texture on here and everything would be a-okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to select that and I'm going to delete that face because you don't need those extra faces on there. All right. And then if you look at my face count here at 382, that's not bad at all for just a little simple garage. All it needs is some textures and we're good to go. I'm going to add another detail on the mine though. So somewhere around here, I'm going to use the knife tool. I'm going to run that straight across. Oh, it wouldn't take that area, huh? All right. So let me not do that. See, now sometimes if you can't get this knife tool, sometimes it's easier to do it on the inside because you don't have all that extra geometry in the way, like for the door. So we'll try this one more time from the inside and see if that works. All right, and I'm going to go Y. See, and it did, because all I was doing is I was picking up extra geometry, you know, up here in that door jam, which was no, or along that trim, I mean, which is no big deal. But if you try the knife tool continuously and it's not working for you, you probably have a double face somehow. Somehow you did something and you got some doubles going on. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this. I should have ran this all the way across. That's what I was trying to do originally. Like grab this and run it up here to this corner. Now it's going to run across the door, but it's not a big deal. I just want to make sure that I got these lined up okay. This is the only hard thing about using the knife tool instead of, you know, like loop cuts and stuff like that. Loop cuts are obviously much easier. All right. And then we'll lock that in. And then of course I can come back and and clean all this up. We will do a video at some point on how to clean up your meshes, or your messes, depending on what you got going on. Because all this extra geometry you're not going to want. Not only that, but it's going to make life a little more difficult. One, it's extra geometry, and two, when you have to texture these things, you don't want all these things hanging out here, all these extra edges and everything else. All right, now there's bunches of ways to do this. Now, like I said, I cheat. I have a tool that does it for me, but it's a paid add-on. So I will try to show you ways to do it absolutely free of charge. Just requires a bit more work, but it is what it is. At least you don't have to pay for anything if that's not in your budget. Or you can do some research on your own on how to clean up, the topology they call it, how to clean up your meshes. So everything is nice and you don't have, all these double faces and everything else going on there. Now this is a bit of work using the knife tool to do this. There probably is easier ways to do this. But right now it's working for me. It doesn't take too long. I just want to make this run. Yeah, we'll do just that, I guess. All right. Now, what I don't need, see if I can delete these two edges here. Which I could. Okay. Let me go into face select, and I'm going to grab these. What I'm going to do is when I apply my textures, I'm going to make the bottom half brick, and then I'm going to make the top half something else. And that's going to be my like divider there. Actually, let me escape and control Z. I want to extrude along normals. What I was saying along like this extrude faces along normals, sometimes the shortcut is an F. Sometimes it's an A. Not sure what I'm missing there. I'm definitely missing something. Maybe it depends on what menu, how I'm accessing it. Sometimes through face mode. I don't know. I just happen to notice that though. It screws me up. All right. I try to get a better vantage point on it so I don't have these things sticking out further than they need to. All right. Like I said, that's just going to be brick that sticks out the side of there. Sometimes I don't really want that sticking out too much further than what we can do here. And I can show you a trick also. All right. Is have that selected. Up here is your snapping, right? So you can snap to vertexes or vertices, and you can snap to edges, right? So if you put that on edge, all right, and I'm going to use this edge right here, this edge of the trim, and I'm going to tell it to come out only that far. So I'm going to extrude along normals, and I'm going to hold in my control, or does it not work during this? Doesn't work doesn't work with extrude along normals. I thought it did. So you could either click on this, right, and have it active all the time, or you can just do like I was trying to do and use control. All right, so let me try that one more time and see. Yeah, see, it won't let me snap to that edge, which is a shame. So, control gets me back there, but it won't. Now, if I was to try to just like extrude this single edge, right? So extrude, see how when I hit control, how I get that little hourglass thing and it lets me snap it out to that edge. And in this way, I got that sticking out just as far as my trim. So nothing looks weird, right? That's not a big deal though. I'm just going to extrude that. I'm just going to eyeball it and let it come out that far. Matter of fact, I might keep it in just a tiny bit. So when I texture this, it doesn't look like one solid piece. All right. And then that's kind of it, right? So in its most basic form, there's your garage, right? We just need to texture that, which is very simple. Like I said, most of these, what we did here. Now, I apologize. I've just been kind of hopping along and not explaining everything super well. Like I said, I've been really under the weather, running a fever and everything else. So I don't know. My mind is still a little bit foggy right now. So I kind of been fumbling through this and I do apologize for that. I definitely could have explained things a lot better, let you know what I was doing, what I was pressing. But hopefully, you can pause the video, take your time, and just experiment. All right. And it, like I said, very, very basic. Everything that we did here, as far as doors and windows, that will all easily apply to a house just as easily. Right. So, no problems. You notice I'm not really worried about the door, like any kind of detail on the door, because again, that's all going to be done through a texture. You could add a handle if you want to. Same with the door. You can see that the door has like no doorknob. All right. And I'll show you a quick way to do that if you want to, if you want to maybe add a doorknob there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out roughly where I want that doorknob, and I'm going to shift and right click, and that's going to move my cursor. So any object that I bring in, I'm going to bring in uh, over top of that cursor. So I am going to shift A. All right. And I'm going to pick, first, I'm going to pick a cube. I'm going to scale that down to, this is kind of going to be like a back plate for the knob. And then I'm going to scale that on the X axis as well. Let's move that out a little bit so I can see it. And I want this to be pretty skinny, like so. All right, now G and X, and I'm going to move that in like so. And I'm going to keep this cursor right there, and I'm going to do the same thing, Shift A, except this time I am going to grab a UV sphere. All right, and I'm gonna bring that out this time, bring it out away from the door a little bit, and I'm gonna scale that down to roughly the size that I think I need it. Now looking on that head on. Actually, let me try it this way. There we go. And I could zoom in and get a good idea. There we go. Like something like that. That might even be a little bit big. All right. So now I'm going to scale this just on the X axis, right? The scale X, and I'm going to shrink that in. Probably one thing that I should have done is probably I have, when I made this sphere, I probably had all 32 vertices in there, and I didn't really need that. I could have knocked that down to 16, and that would have helped my geometry tremendously, right? I didn't need something so detailed, but that's fine. All right, so now it's up to you if you guys want to add some kind of like a stem here that connects, the doorknob to the backing plate, or it's completely up to you. All right, sometimes I leave it just like this. I'll show you how to make assets, like the start an asset library. So you can make a collection of different styles of doorknobs. And then if you want to, you can just drag them in here and kind of line them up how you want. You don't have to recreate doors, windows, doorknobs, all these things over and over with every project. You'll have an asset library that you can just bring them in. Right. And they're already, I guess, refined, or they already have the minimum amount of geometry, colors if they need to. So they're already done. You just got to put them in place. Right. Or you can build them every time. So I got different styles. And like I said, from a glance, it's fine. I don't think too many people are going to come up and inspect this closely and say, hey, there's no stem behind there. Cheater. And you have to understand also that, most of these deco objects, now just deco objects, as far as your prefabs, like I said, nobody's going to get close. And 99.9% of the time, people are going to be driving by in some sort of vehicle, tractor, what have you, and they're just going to glance. They're going to look at it and, it's nice. So honestly, you don't need 4K textures. You don't. Go look at any one of the Giants buildings and you'll see that they definitely do not use 4K textures. It can be simple. It's just very simple. You don't, like I said, you don't need to stem behind a doorknob. Nobody's ever going to notice. You probably don't even need the doorknob because nobody's going to notice. If you look at the textures that Giants themselves have for their door set, there are no doorknobs on any of them. Not necessary. Right. And people probably, all of these guys listening right now, will be like, what? I didn't know that. And now, next time you go in game, you're going to look at the prefabs to see if these things have doorknobs or not. Right. Maybe some of the houses do, but I know the industrial door set does not. But that's fine. That's no big deal. All right. So now the next thing that we have here is when this gets moved into Giants editor, it's going to line up right where this dot is, right? So this thing's going to be halfway underneath the ground. So I'm going to go into object mode and I'm going to right click. I'm going to go down the snap and I'm going to snap the cursor to the world origin. So that's going to put me right in the middle of the X there. All right. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to right click, except this time I'm going to set origin and I'm going to set origin to 3D cursor. And now I'm right in the middle. So when I bring this in the Giants editor, it's going to rotate just like this. It's going to set nice and flat at this level. One other thing that you could do while we're here, and this is something that sometimes I do it, sometimes I do not. It all depends. I'm not sure how this would work with the garage door. Maybe we can do that. What I want to do is get an edge select. And this is something that I should have done in the beginning. Sometimes I'll make a runner along the bottom here, and it's just a concrete runner. And then this way, when you place the objects, because right now you have to get it, pretty flat, and you'll be able to see under it pretty easy. If you bury any of this in the ground, you're going to bury the bottom of the door, and it's not necessarily what you want. So you could come back and just kind of select, if you need to, you can select just the bottom of this and extend it downwards. So this way, you have, like, if you look this way, like if I press E, right? And then I could bring it down a little bit and just give that like a concrete color. And this way I can bury it down in the ground a little bit and not have to worry about. But in this case, I'm not so sure I'm going to do that. Only because the trim and stuff is just goofing me up a little bit. And I don't feel like, actually, you know what? That might not be bad. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if I feel like dealing with that right now. I could select all these, select this, select this. So this is just something like after the fact. If when you're done, you're like, shoot, I wanted to put one of those things on the bottom of there, it makes it easy. You'll notice that even houses have them. It's part of their foundation of the house. But it, like I said, it makes it a little bit easier to set these objects because, you're not worrying about, burying part of your doorway or what have you. All right. And just E and Z and bring that down just a little bit. All right. And that's going to be part of, like I said, this will have like a concrete color to it, and most of it's going to get buried, so you really wouldn't worry about it. And then from there, any other details you wanted to add, if you wanted to add like a driveway for this, you can pull the driveway out, and bring that out as far as you want. Now, as you're making these, like sometimes what I'll do, with this driveway, I'll go into face select and I'll pull that down too. I'll pull that down a little bit so I can bury the driveway in the ground as well. But what I'll do is, me back here, this driveway is I will select that. So you can right click and you can separate, right? P, and then you want to separate by selection. Why does that say? Oh, it is S. Okay. So you want to go P and an S. So I usually go P, S. All right. So that cube 001 is now your driveway. All right. And in this way, when you're in game, right, or in Giants Editor, if you can't really find a way to incorporate the driveway, maybe you don't like it, what have you, you don't have to use it, right? And that goes with a lot of objects. Sometimes, you can do a chimney that way. Like maybe you want it with the chimney. Maybe you like it without the chimney. Maybe you like it with the driveway or sidewalks that you can take them out if you don't like them. They're not permanently part of your structure, right? You can move them around if you need to. You can move them on, use them on another prefab if you want, right? So it's not a big deal. So a lot of the objects, if you want them, you can keep them separate, make them a separate object. And this way, like I said, you can move them around. You can delete them if you don't want them on that particular prefab. Maybe I'm using two of these garages and, one has a driveway, one doesn't. Completely up to you. Like I said, it's how you want to do it. In this case, I'm not really going to keep this driveway. I'm just going to get rid of it. And then we're all good. All right. So that is it. You should have something fairly similar to what you see here. Like I said, this is very, very basic. Probably the next video, we're going to go over add-ons, and I will show you how to get the Giants i3D exporter into Blender 4.0, get it up and running, and then maybe any other add-ons, because there's a lot of free add-ons out there also. So you want to look some of those up, right? Look for free add-ons. Some of them may benefit you guys. They might be right up your alley, something that you've been looking for. There's ones that I use in here as well too. When we get into texturing, I will show you stuff like Node Wrangler, which comes bundled with Blender, but it's not active. So we need to activate that that add-on. But like I said, I'll show you how to do that so you're comfortable using your add-ons and et cetera, et cetera. All right. And then in the video after that, we'll get into making materials and textures and stuff like that and applying them to our models. And then from there into Giants Editor. Alrighty, so I'm going to wrap it up. I'm on about 45 minutes. So with that being said, I am Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the next one.